There was a period of my life, about 4 years, right in the middle of my 60s, when I genuinely did not know who I was anymore. Not in a philosophical way, not in the interesting, searching, what does it all mean way that sounds profound when young people say it. I mean, I would catch my reflection in a mirror or a store window and feel nothing, no recognition. No connection between the face looking back at me and the person I understood myself to be. I had become a stranger to myself. And I want to be very clear about something before I tell you what changed. I was not in a crisis that anyone could see from the outside. I was functional. I was present at family dinners. I answered my phone. I went to church. I smiled at the grocery store. From the outside, I looked completely fine. From the inside, I was very, very lost. This notebook saved my life. Not a therapist, not a medication, not a conversation or a vacation or a reinvention. This worn-out $1.49 composition notebook that I've been writing in every single morning for 22 years. Stay with me, because what I am going to tell you is not what you think I am going to tell you. My name is Frances Elaine Moss, Fran to everyone who matters. I'm 85 years old. I was born in Richmond, Virginia in 1940. I worked as a bookkeeper for 33 years for a small manufacturing company that no longer exists, and a man named Gerald Hobart, who was the most honest person I ever worked for. I raised 2 daughters. I have been widowed since 2003, when my husband, Leonard, passed from a heart attack on a Saturday morning in April while he was making pancakes. He was making pancakes. I tell people that detail not for sympathy, though I understand it lands that way, but because it is the detail that taught me the first thing this notebook ever made me understand. Ordinary mornings are the whole of a life, not the vacations, not the celebrations, not the moments you planned and prepared for, the Saturday morning pancakes. That is where the life actually lives. After Leonard died, I was okay for about a year. Okay in the way that grief sometimes allows in the beginning. You are so busy surviving it that you do not yet have time to notice what is underneath it. The casseroles come, the phone calls come, the business of death, the paperwork, the accounts, the decisions, keeps you occupied in a way that feels almost merciful. And then the casseroles stop coming, and the phone calls thin out, and you are left alone in a house that still smells like someone who is no longer there. I managed. I tell you this with honesty. I managed. I kept my routines. I kept my independence. I did not fall apart in any visible way. But something quiet happened over the next several years, something that I did not name or identify until it was quite far along. I stopped having an inner life. I know how that sounds. Let me explain what I mean. When Leonard was alive, I had someone to think out loud with. Not about big, important things necessarily, about everything. The small observations, the minor irritations, the funny things, the things that bothered me that I couldn't quite explain. Leonard was the external home for my internal life. I thought to him. I processed through him. He was, without either of us ever formally deciding it, the place where I made sense of what I was experiencing. When he died, that place closed, and I did not find anywhere else to put those thoughts. So they stopped coming, or I stopped listening for them. After a while, I could not tell the difference. In 2002, the year before Leonard passed, though I did not know that was the year before yet. My daughter Susan gave me a composition notebook and said, with the casual generosity of someone who doesn't know they are handing you a lifeline, "Mom, I read that writing in the morning is good for clearing your head. I thought you might like to try it." I put it in a drawer. It stayed in a drawer for 2 years. It was not until the particular lostness of 2004, that year when I stopped recognizing myself in mirrors, that I pulled it out. The first morning I wrote in it, I had nothing to say. I want to be honest about that, because I think people imagine the beginning of something transformative as having a certain weight to it, a certain clarity. Like, you know, at the moment it begins, that it matters. I sat down at this very table at 6:15 in the morning, and I opened the notebook, and I picked up the pen, and I wrote. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have anything to say. Leonard has been gone for 8 months, and I still set 2 cups on the counter every morning before I remember. That was it. 41 words. I closed the notebook. I made my single cup of coffee. I went about my day. But something had happened in those 41 words that I did not recognize until about a week later, when I sat down again and noticed that I wanted to. Not because I had made a rule about it, not because someone had told me I should, because something in me had felt, after those 41 words, the faintest suggestion of relief. The way a pressure you have stopped noticing because it has been there so long releases slightly, and you think, oh, I didn't realize how much that was weighing. I wrote the next morning, and the next, and somewhere in the first month, the practice stopped being something I was trying and became something I was doing. 22 years later, I have not missed a morning, not one. Now, I need to tell you what I learned this habit actually was, because it took me several years to understand it correctly, and I do not want you to misunderstand it the way I initially did. It is not journaling in the way most people think about journaling. I am not recording events. I am not logging what happened yesterday. I am not keeping a diary in the way that word is usually meant, a chronicle of a life from the outside looking in. What I am doing every morning is something closer to what Leonard used to do for me. I am thinking out loud to a page. Whatever is in my mind when I sit down, the worry, the memory, the observation, the gratitude, the anger, the confusion, the thing I dreamed about, I simply follow it. I do not edit. I do not structure. I do not write for an audience or for posterity or for anyone who might one day read it. I write for the same reason you talk to someone you trust completely. Because the act of putting it outside yourself, even onto a private page that no one will ever see, changes its nature. A worry that circles in your mind at 2 in the morning is enormous. It expands to fill the entire space. It feels absolute and insurmountable and permanent. The same worry, written down in the gray-blue light of 6 a.m., becomes a sentence. A sentence has edges. A sentence has a beginning and an end. And once something has edges, you can see around it. That is what 22 years of morning pages have given me. Not answers, not peace through resolution, not a life without difficulty. Edges. The ability to see around the thing that is frightening me. The ability to find myself on the other side of it, even just on paper, even just hypothetically, and to discover that I am still there. That is what I had lost when I lost Leonard. Not him exactly, or not only him. I lost the mechanism through which I knew I was still myself. The notebook gave it back. I have 47 of these notebooks now. 47. They sit in 2 boxes on the shelf in my bedroom. I have not read most of them. That is not the point. The writing is the point, not the reading. Though occasionally, on a significant anniversary, on a difficult day, I will pull one out from a particular year and read a few pages. And without exception, every time I do, I find the same thing. A woman working something out. A woman refusing, on the page at least, to be silent about her own experience. A woman who, in the act of filling that first 41 words, decided that what she thought and felt and observed and wondered about was worth the space of a page. Here is the regret, and I am going to give it to you plainly because it deserves plainness. I wish I had started at 30. I wish that the woman who was working double shifts as a bookkeeper and raising 2 daughters and managing a household and giving everything she had to everyone around her, I wish that woman had had 20 minutes every morning that belonged only to her interior life. Not to her to-do list, not to her worry about money or the girls or whether she was doing it all right, not to the performance of being competent and capable and fine. 20 minutes where she sat with herself, where she let herself be the subject instead of always the support. My daughter Karen, she is 58 now, a nurse, the practical one. Karen went through a very difficult time in her 40s, a divorce and then a period of what she described as not knowing who she was outside of her marriage. And I heard her say that, and I recognized it so completely it almost knocked the breath out of me. Because I had felt exactly that, in my 60s, after Leonard. And I thought, did she watch me lose myself and not know that it was happening? Did I model, without intending to, a woman who took such poor care of her inner life that her daughter arrived at 40-something not knowing how to tend her own? I gave Karen a composition notebook. She called me 6 months later and she said, "Mom, why didn't you give me this 20 years ago?" I said, "Because I didn't know about it 20 years ago." She said, "How did you not know?" And I didn't have an answer for that. I don't have one now, only that nobody told me. Nobody told me that the most important relationship of my life was the one I had with my own interior. That tending it was not selfish, but foundational. That you cannot give from a self you have not first taken time to understand. Nobody told me. I am telling you. The turning point came about 3 years into the habit, around 2005. I was sitting here, this exact table, this exact chair, on a January morning, writing about nothing in particular, when I wrote a sentence that stopped me. I will not tell you exactly what it said because it belongs to me and to no one else. But the substance of it was this. For the first time in several years, I was describing myself, not my situation, not my grief, not my circumstances, myself. What I liked, what I found funny, what I was curious about, what I believed, what I wanted, which was a word I had almost completely stopped using in the first person. And I realized, reading back over what I had just written, that she was still there. The Frances who had existed before the loss, before the lostness, before the years of being only functional. She had not gone anywhere. She had just been waiting for 20 minutes of quiet and a cheap composition notebook and the simple, radical act of someone asking her what she thought, even if the someone was herself. even if the asking was done in the gray-blue light of 6 a.m. alone at a kitchen table. I am 85 years old. I have buried a husband and a sister and 2 friends who deserved more years than they were given. I have had health scares and financial worries and the ordinary accumulated difficulties of a full life. And every single morning for 22 years, I have sat down at this table before the day asks anything of me, and I have written whatever is true.
Some mornings it is 3 pages. Some mornings it is 4 sentences.
It does not matter. What matters is the sitting down. What matters is the declaration, made quietly, daily, without fanfare. My inner life is worth 20 minutes. I am worth the space of a page. So here is what I am asking. Not to journal, not to process your childhood or excavate your trauma or become someone who talks about their feelings in a way that makes you uncomfortable. Just this. Tomorrow morning, before the phone, before the news, before the first demand of the day arrives, sit down somewhere quiet. Put a pen on paper. Write whatever is true right now. It does not have to be beautiful. It does not have to make sense. It does not have to go anywhere or mean anything. It just has to be yours. 20 minutes. That is all I am asking. 20 minutes every morning for the rest of your life, given entirely to the person you have been neglecting most consistently, yourself.
Nobody is going to give you those 20 minutes. You are going to have to take them. Take them.